Hey, welcome back again. As his namesake might suggest, Hannibal Mejbri was touted to become a battle-ready general of a midfielder upon joining Manchester United in 2019. Tunisian youngster, with his recognisable head of long curled hair, made his debut in 2021 after making waves throughout the Red Devils' academy sides. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer looked to have handed him his big break. Alas, United entered a footballing lull during the tenure of their legendary Norwegian deputy, and temporary spells with Michael Carrick and Ralf Rangnick at the helm saw Hannibal 21 descend back into the periphery. Erik Ten Hag never entirely took to the creative player either, and Hannibal ended his United career this summer, joining Burnley. Despite such promise, and the dismal state of the Red Devils' midfield, highlighted by their merciless 3-0 collapse at the hands of old rivals Liverpool, the player that Hannibal was touted to become could have offered something different to a side evidently in need of a spark. But where did his story begin? Hannibal was born and grew up in the suburbs of Paris, where he began his budding career, starring for Paris FC. European giants began to court him, but a decision was made. The star would make a southern switch to Monaco, famous for their incubation of Kylian Mbappe. This move was no fairy tale, however, and Hannibal lasted a single year in the city-state before opening the floor to top European clubs once again, who caught wind of his disenchantment. While rumours suggest that Bayern Munich, PSG and Barcelona had earmarked the starlet, the then France U16 player eventually chose to seek pastures new after falling out of love with his profession, snubbing other members of the European elite for Solskjaer's United. The fee was an initial £4.2 million, rising to a possible £8.2 million. Perhaps a relief for United after they paid the Monegasque side £36 million up front for Anthony Martial 4 years prior. Immediately upon arriving, the reviews for Hannibal rolled in and were positive. A training ground source reportedly told The Athletic that the attacking midfielder took the out of his teammates with his ability and was so composed for a young man. Official sources within the club soon praised him, with United Academy head Nick Cox telling the Men, "His performances have been very good. The first objective for any player that arrives from outside of the country is to settle and build relationships. That's really the only expectation we have on him at the moment. In these early phases, it's just to settle, and he's doing that nicely." With his bed nicely made in England, Hannibal set his sights on the first team, which was led by Solskjaer, the man who helped bring him to Old Trafford. His first start for the U21S came in 2020 during an EFL trophy tie against Salford City. And a year later, the first team beckoned after Hannibal was named Reserve Player of the Year. His first senior bow came against Wolves in the final Premier League game of the 2020-21 season. But 8 months later, Solskjaer was sacked, Carrick took temporary charge, and Rangnick was hired until the season's end. Solskjaer scarcely picked young Hannibal before his dismissal, relying on more senior figures to save his job, and that trend continued under both Carrick and Rangnick, the latter handing him 2 senior appearances near the season's end. Most notable of these cameos was that against Liverpool, where the youngster was praised by some including Gary Neville, but shunned by others for his fight, that resulted in a slurry of fouls and a yellow card. A month later, that fight was on show yet again, but not in the way that fans would have hoped. A training group spat involving 2 first-team players, reported to be Hannibal and Brazilian defender Alex Telles, made headlines and forced training to be called off early. This began the youngster's off-field issues, but didn't stop him from featuring in the club's final game of the season against Crystal Palace. The reign of Ten Hag then began. And although his substitute appearances inspired some to suggest Hannibal be incorporated into the Dutchman's first team, he wasn't favoured. Less than 2 months after arriving, United's new head coach sent Hannibal on loan. Birmingham City snapped up the starlet, and he hit the ground running, making 38 championship appearances and earning the club's Goal of the Season award for his only strike of the campaign. A marvellous free kick against West Brom upon his return, he was greeted by a mixed reception. Marcus Rashford was left out of Lee Carsley's England squad for the UEFA Nations League double-header with Ireland and Finland after a tough start to the club season. Former England winger Chris Waddle understands why Marcus Rashford was left out of Lee Carsley's England squad, suggesting the Manchester United forward needs to move clubs to revive his international career. Rashford was one of the high-profile absentees from England's Euro 2024 squad, along with Manchester City star Jack Grealish. However, while Grealish has earned a recall from interim boss Carsley for September's internationals, the United man has had no such luck. United Academy graduate Rashford enjoyed the best goal-scoring season of his career in 2022-23 as Erik Ten Hag's side finished third in the Premier League and won the EFL Cup. However, his form tailed off last season and he has yet to score in 3 outings this term. That was linked with a summer move only to stay at Old Trafford. However, Waddle believes the time has come for the 26-year-old to move out of his comfort zone. I can see why Lee Carsley has left Marcus Rashford out of the England squad. He doesn't do enough, Waddle told newbettingsites.uk. On his game, he's a terrific player, as we saw 2 years ago when he scored over 30 goals. He was on fire that season. That's what you want out of him. Since then, we haven't seen that. Last season, he didn't do it, and he hasn't so far this season either. I don't know whether it's a lack of desire or passion. It just feels as if he's not even on the pitch sometimes. He doesn't look like he cares. He hasn't been there over the last season and the start of this season. I think Manchester United should have sold him 2 years ago after that electric season. That was the right time he needs to move away. He's been at United his entire life, and sometimes players just get comfortable. I think that's what it is. Erik Ten Hag will be thinking, I know what this kid is capable of, but he just doesn't do it. Waddle's comments come after former United striker Dwight Yorke suggested Rashford looked unhappy at Old Trafford. You can bring in the best coaches around him, but he has to have that burning desire to get himself back, the treble winner told TalkSport. We know he has all the talent and all the ability, but if he is not prepared to put that effort in and really bring himself back from his poorest season last year, he is not going to get back to that level. He has to want to do it. I have defended Marcus many times, but he just seems unhappy. For whatever reason, I don't know, but just does not seem to be enjoying his football like he used to. Manchester United fans must be wondering why Casemiro wasn't sold this summer. The truth is, United were open to offers from the beginning to the end of the transfer window, but no concrete approaches were made for the ageing midfielder. A club source described Casemiro as a high-value player during the window, and his wage demands were partly the reason for him staying. There were no clubs willing to offer Casemiro a similar salary to his current contract, and not even Saudi Arabian sides were tempted. It was clear relatively early in the summer that United were preparing for the new season with Casemiro, although it seemed like asking for trouble not to sign a new midfielder. Thankfully, United landed Manuel Ugarte from Paris Saint-Germain, and the 23-year-old is expected to be the first choice at the base of the midfield, with Kobbie Mainoo and Bruno Fernandes playing ahead of him. The prospect of regularly starting on the bench will not sit well with Casemiro, and being substituted at half-time for youngster Toby Collier against Liverpool might have represented the beginning of the end for him at Old Trafford. Contrary to claims on social media, Casemiro did not storm out of the stadium after his substitution, but an 11th hour exit from the club could be on the cards this month. Casemiro's wife uploaded a photo of his trophy cabinet on social media after the Liverpool debacle. However, the player who won that collection of trophies looks confined to the past. It was within United's best interest to move Casemiro on this summer, and although the opportunity didn't present itself, a late transfer to Turkey might be possible. Galatasaray are said to be considering a late swoop for him, and Turkey's window is open until September 13th, which could provide the Brazilian with an exit route from the heavy scrutiny at United. Oh, a human level. It must be difficult for Casemiro to watch his body let him down after years of operating at an elite level. And it can't be easy for his family to read the heavy criticism, but he is one of the highest earners at United, and that comes with expectation. Casemiro was determined to come back stronger in 2024-25, and that shouldn't be a surprise. He couldn't have achieved what he has without that mentality and a powerful self-belief, but it's often following the departures of Facundo Pellistri and Jadon Sancho over the summer. Manchester United's pool of wide options now has a much healthier look about itself. United went into the summer transfer window with 6 wingers on their books that each would have been knocking on Erik Ten Hag's door in pursuit of regular game time. Despite the prospect of facing a more congested fixture list than ever before, it would have been impossible for the United manager to have kept Marcus Rashford, Alejandro Garnacho, Pellistri, Sancho, Antony and Ahmad happy. It was a list that needed scaling back. By managing to offload Pellistri, who joined Panathinaikos, and Sancho, who sealed an 11th hour switch to Chelsea on deadline day, United now have a manageable number of wingers at their disposal. It should be enough to see them through the season without too many problems. Rashford and Ahmad started each of United's opening 3 games, occupying the left and right wing slots respectively.